The morning light from 3 distant stars filtered through the massive windows of Classroom 7. The light created rainbow patterns on the metal floor of the Galactic Unity Academy. This was not a normal school. It floated in space, a huge station called Harmony 7, where young beings from hundreds of different worlds came to learn together. Professor Veltok stood at the front of the class. He was beautiful in his own strange way. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw it back in soft blue sparkles. When he moved, he made tiny musical sounds like wind chimes. He had been teaching for 50 Earth years, though time meant something different to his species. "Good morning, students," Professor Veltok said. His voice sounded like bells ringing underwater. "Today we continue our study of predator species from across the galaxy." The classroom was full of many different kinds of students. In the front row sat 3 Lepori students. They looked like large rabbits that could walk on 2 legs. Their long ears twitched at every sound. Their pink noses never stopped moving, always sniffing the air for danger. Even here, in the safest place in the galaxy, they could not stop their natural habits. Next to them floated a Zephyrian student named Sylvia. Her species had wings like earth butterflies, but much larger. The wings were see-through with veins of gold running through them. She weighed almost nothing and had to wear special magnetic bracelets to keep from floating away in the artificial gravity. Her huge compound eyes could see in 12 different color spectrums that most other species could not even imagine. Behind them sat a group of Proxima students. They were tall and thin, with gray skin that could change color slightly to match their mood. Right now they were a calm blue-gray, showing they were relaxed and ready to learn. Their heads were large, holding brains that were excellent at mathematics and logic. And in the back corner, sitting alone with empty seats all around him, was Marcus Chen, the human. The Deathworlder. Marcus did not look scary. He was average height for a human with black hair and brown eyes. He wore the standard academy uniform just like everyone else. But every other student knew what he was. They had all heard the stories about Earth. They called it Deathworld Prime in their textbooks. Earth had gravity that would crush a Zephyrian in seconds. It had weather that included spinning winds strong enough to destroy entire cities. It had water that fell from the sky, frozen water that covered the ground, and air that could become so hot or cold it would kill most galactic species instantly. But worst of all, Earth still had predators. Lots of them. And humans had not destroyed them or hidden from them. Humans lived with them. Professor Veltok touched a crystal panel and images appeared in the air above his desk. "These are some of the ancient predators from the Lepori homeworld," he said. The images showed creatures with long teeth and claws. The Lepori eliminated these dangers 3,000 years ago. Now their world is peaceful and safe. The Lepori students sat up straighter, their whiskers twitching with pride. One of them, a female named Tika, raised her paw. "My grandmother's grandmother remembered stories of the last predator hunt," she said. "We are very happy they are gone. No Lepori has had to face violence in many generations." "Excellent," Professor Veltok chimed. He changed the image. "And here we see the extinct sky hunters of Zephyr. They were eliminated 5,000 years ago." Sylvia shuddered, her wings creating a soft buzzing sound. "I cannot imagine living when those monsters flew in our skies." "How did any of our ancestors survive?" "They survived by being smart," the professor said. "They built cities with barriers. They developed technology. They evolved beyond the need for physical confrontation. This is what civilized species do." A Proxima student raised a long, thin hand. "Professor, is it true that some worlds still have active predators?" The classroom became very quiet. This was the question they all wondered about but were afraid to ask. Everyone tried not to look at Marcus, but many eyes turned his way anyway. "Yes," Professor Veltok said carefully. "Some worlds, particularly those we classify as death worlds, still maintain their original ecosystems. The species from these worlds have different approaches to survival." Marcus shifted in his seat. He was used to this by now. 3 months at the academy, and he was still the scary story that other students told in whispers. He had tried to make friends at first. He had smiled and introduced himself, but smiling just showed his teeth, which made the herbivore species nervous. His forward-facing eyes, which all humans had, marked him as a predator to their instincts. Even when he explained that humans ate mostly plants and synthetic foods now, it did not help much. "Can you tell us about Earth predators?" a small voice asked. It was a dweller, a species that looked like a ball of fur with eyes on stalks. They lived underground on their world and only came out at night. Professor Veltok's crystal body flickered, a sign of discomfort. Perhaps we should focus on historical predators today. I don't mind, Marcus said quietly. Everyone in the class turned to look at him. Some quickly looked away when he met their eyes. Earth still has lots of predators. We have sharks in the oceans that have existed for millions of years. We have big cats that hunt in packs. We have bears that weigh hundreds of kilograms. We have snakes with poison that can kill in minutes. Tika's ears flattened against her head. And humans just live there with all of those things? Marcus shrugged. It's not that bad. Most predators avoid humans. We're not easy prey. Not easy prey. A Proxima student repeated, their skin turning a worried yellow color. You say that like you have experience. Well, yeah, Marcus said. I grew up in Australia. We had to check our shoes for spiders before putting them on. Sometimes snakes would get in the house. Once, a kangaroo kicked my uncle. Broke 3 of his ribs. The class stared at him in horror. Even Professor Veltok's chiming had stopped. But that's just life, Marcus continued, confused by their reactions. You learn to be careful. You learn the signs of danger. You learn how to react if something goes wrong. It's not really scary when you grow up with it. Not scary, Sylvia whispered, her wings trembling. He says it's not scary. Professor Veltok quickly changed the subject back to extinct predators from other worlds, but the damage was done. The other students kept sneaking looks at Marcus like they were trying to understand how any thinking being could be so casual about danger. Marcus sighed and went back to taking notes. He missed Earth. Not because of the predators or the danger. He missed it because on Earth he was just normal. Here he was the monster in the room, even though he had never hurt anyone in his life. He was just a biology student who wanted to learn about alien life, but to them he would always be the Deathworlder. The lesson continued for another hour. Professor Veltok showed them fossilized bones and old videos. He explained how civilized species had evolved beyond violence, how they had created perfect societies without danger. The students took notes and asked questions, and slowly the tension in the room eased, but it never went away completely. Because in the back of the room sat a human, a Deathworlder, a reminder that not every species had chosen safety over strength, and though none of them could have known it at that moment, they would soon be very grateful for that difference. The class was almost over when Professor Veltok made his final point. Remember, students, the mark of civilization is the ability to solve problems without violence. The primitive need for physical confrontation is something we have all evolved beyond. Marcus did not say anything, but he thought about the martial arts classes he took as a kid. The camping trips where his father taught him to read animal tracks. The time his mother showed him how to make a shelter from branches and leaves. Were these primitive skills? Maybe, but they were also part of who he was. Part of what made humans human. The bell chimed. A pleasant sound that meant class was ending. Students began packing their things, chattering in their various languages. Tomorrow they would have a practical demonstration with preserved specimens. Nothing dangerous, of course. Nothing that could possibly go wrong in their perfectly safe, perfectly controlled environment. If only that had been true. The next day started like any other at the Galactic Unity Academy. Students moved through the wide corridors, each species keeping to their comfortable patterns. The herbivores traveled in groups, finding safety in numbers even here. The few carnivore species that attended the academy walked alone or in pairs, careful not to seem threatening. And the humans, all 5 of them in the entire academy, were given wide paths wherever they went. Marcus arrived early to classroom 7. He liked the quiet morning moments when he could sit and watch the stars through the windows. 3 months in space and the view still amazed him. Earth seemed so far away, a tiny blue dot he could not even see from here. Professor Veltok was already there, preparing specimens in sealed containers for the day's demonstration. His crystal body hummed with concentration. "Ah, Marcus," he chimed softly. "You're early." "I like the quiet, Professor," Marcus said, taking his usual seat in the back. "I wanted to apologize for yesterday," Professor Veltok said, his light dimming slightly. "The questions about Earth predators. I should have stopped that line of discussion," Marcus shrugged. "It's okay. They're curious, I get it. I'm curious about their worlds too. Still, it must be difficult being so far from home, surrounded by those who see you as—" The professor paused, searching for the right word. "Dangerous?" Marcus supplied with a small smile. I knew what I was signing up for when I applied to come here. Humans are new to the galactic community. It will take time for everyone to get used to us. Before the professor could reply, other students began arriving. The Lepori came in a group, their ears constantly moving to track every sound. Sylvia floated in, her wings catching the morning light. The Proxima students filed in silently, their skin a neutral gray. Each group sat in their usual spots, maintaining the invisible boundaries that kept everyone comfortable. Tika, the female Lepori who had spoken yesterday, surprised everyone by taking a seat just 3 rows behind Marcus instead of her usual spot at the front. It was still far away, but closer than any herbivore student had sat to him before. She gave him a tiny nod when he looked back, her nose twitching nervously but her ears forward in a sign of greeting. Marcus nodded back. Careful not to smile and show his teeth, Professor Veltok began the lesson. Today we examine preserved specimens of extinct predators. These are completely safe, sealed in containment fields that have been tested and verified. He gestured to the row of containers on his desk. We will start with this example from the Altair system. The class leaned forward to look at the creature in the container. It was about the size of a house cat with 6 legs and too many teeth. Even dead and preserved for centuries, it looked menacing. This is a stalker, Professor Veltok explained. They hunted in packs using coordinated attacks. The civilization on Altair 3 eliminated them 800 years ago using targeted genetic modification to make them sterile. A Proxima student raised his hand. Professor, how do we know these containment fields are completely safe? An excellent question, the professor chimed. The Academy uses triple redundant containment systems. Each field is powered by independent generators. Even if 2 systems failed, the third would hold. Additionally, these specimens have been chemically preserved. They are no more dangerous than statues. The students relaxed. The Academy was known for its safety. Nothing bad had ever happened here. It was the whole point of building the station in empty space, far from any world's dangers. The lesson continued with more specimens. A flying predator from the Vega system with wings like leather and claws like knives. A water hunter from Proxima with teeth that could punch through metal. Each creature was more frightening than the last, but safely dead and contained. Marcus found it interesting, but a bit sad. All these creatures were gone forever. On Earth, humans had learned the hard way about extinction. They had lost too many species before learning to protect what remained. Now Earth had nature reserves and careful breeding programs. Predators still existed, but in balance with everything else. Now, Professor Veltok said, I want to show you something special. The xenobiology lab on level 3 has sent up a very rare specimen for us to examine. He touched his control panel. A new container rose from a hidden compartment in the floor. It was larger than the others, about the size of a dining table. Inside was something that made every student gasp. It looked like a nightmare. 6 legs with joints that bent in ways that seemed wrong. A body covered in scales that shifted between black and deep purple. A head that was mostly mouth with multiple rows of teeth. Arms that ended in claws like surgical scalpels. Even preserved and still, it radiated menace. This, Professor Veltok said with obvious excitement, is a Gorvak, from the quarantined world of Therax 9. The colonists who tried to settle that world did not survive. This specimen was recovered 50 years ago by a military expedition. It's the only complete Gorvak in existence. The room was absolutely silent. Even Marcus felt a chill looking at the thing. It reminded him of every monster from every nightmare, but worse because it was real. The Gorvak is remarkable, the professor continued, warming to his subject. It can survive in almost any environment. It has redundant organs, so damage that would kill most creatures only slows it down. Its saliva is acidic enough to dissolve most metals, and it hunts using a combination of pheromone tracking and heat sensing that made it impossible for the colonists to hide from. Why would anyone try to colonize a world with those things? Sylvia asked, her voice barely a whisper. The planet was rich in rare minerals, Professor Veltok explained. The colonists thought they could build safe zones. They were wrong. The Gorvak were too adaptable, too intelligent. They learned to overcome every defense. Suddenly, a loud alarm began blaring. The lights in the classroom flashed red. Every student jumped and several squeaked or chirped in fear. Please remain calm, Professor Veltok said, though his own crystal body was flickering with stress. This is probably just a drill. A voice came over the communication system. It was not calm. Emergency. Emergency. Containment breach in Xenobiology Lab Level 3. All personnel seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. The students looked at each other in confusion. Then as understanding dawned, they looked at the preserved Gorvak in its container. Professor, a Proxima student said, their skin turning white with fear. The Xenobiology Lab. That's where this came from? Yes, but Professor Veltok began. Do they have other specimens? Marcus asked, already knowing the answer from the professor's sudden silence. They were studying a live specimen, the professor admitted, but it was in maximum containment. The best we have. It couldn't possibly. A new voice interrupted over the speakers. It was panicked, screaming. It's out! The Gorvak is out! It's killed the guards! It's moving up through the station. Level 4 breached. Level 5? The voice cut off with a wet, horrible sound. The classroom erupted. The Lepori huddled together, paralyzed with ancestral fear. Sylvia's wings beat frantically, but she could not seem to move. The Proxima students had turned transparent. A last-ditch camouflage reflex. The Dweller had rolled into a tight ball. Professor Veltok was trying to be calm, but his crystal form was fracturing with stress. Students, please, we must evacuate in an orderly. Where to? Marcus asked, cutting him off. He was standing now, but unlike the others, he was not panicking. His body had gone into a different mode, one his ancestors knew well. His heart rate was up but controlled. His breathing was deep and steady. His eyes tracked every exit, every potential weapon, every defensive position. Professor, where exactly are we supposed to evacuate to? The emergency shelter's on level 10, the professor said. And we're on level 7, Marcus said. The Gorvak broke containment on level 3 and is moving up. It will reach us before we could possibly get to level 10. Then we hide, Tika squeaked. We lock the doors and hide. These doors? Marcus walked over and tapped the classroom door. It was made of a light aluminum alloy, designed for privacy, not security. I could break this with my bare hands. What do you think that thing will do to it? As if to answer his question, a distant sound echoed through the station. Metal tearing. Screams getting closer. Security will stop it, a Proxima student said desperately. Security is on level 1, Professor Veltok said, his voice now just broken chimes. Protocol says they secure the command center first. They won't reach us for... He checked his display. 8 minutes. 8 minutes, Marcus repeated. He looked at the preserved Gorvak, studying it. Then he looked at his terrified classmates. We don't have 8 minutes, another crash, closer now. The lights flickered. The air system made a strange noise and then began pumping faster, spreading a smell through the vents. Blood. Alien blood from the levels below, and something else, a bitter chemical smell that made the herbivore students whimper. It's hunting, Marcus said quietly. It's following the scent of prey. We're not prey, Sylvia cried. We're sapient beings. We're civilized. Marcus did not answer. He was doing math in his head. Distance, speed, time. The Gorvak would reach them in maybe 3 minutes. Security in 8. The doors would not hold for even seconds. The metal door bent inward with a terrible screech. Every student in the room scrambled backward, pressing against the far wall. Some were crying. Others had gone completely silent, frozen like ancient prey animals, hoping the predator would not see them. The Lepori students had clustered together, their ears flat against their heads. Sylvia had pressed herself against the ceiling, her wings beating so fast they were just a blur. Marcus Chen stood in the center of the room, not moving toward the wall like the others. His eyes were fixed on the buckling door, but his mind was elsewhere, calculating. The human brain was doing what millions of years of evolution had designed it to do. It was solving a problem that had only one rule: survive. Professor, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the panic. The Gorvak specimen. Tell me about its weak points. Professor Veltok's crystal form flickered. What? Marcus, we need information, Marcus interrupted. You said it has redundant organs. Where are they? What about its sensory systems? How does it track prey? The door bent further. A claw punched through the metal like it was paper, then withdrew. The hole let in a smell that made the herbivore students gag. It was the smell of death and acid and something else. Something alien and wrong. Marcus, this is not the time for a biology lesson. One of the Proxima students cried, but Professor Veltok understood. His analytical mind grabbed onto the questions like a lifeline. The eyes, he said quickly, his chimes becoming steadier. It has 6 eyes, but they're its primary sensors. The heat-sensing organs are in its chest, protected by thick scales. The joints where the legs meet the body, those have less armor. And the inside of its mouth behind the teeth, that's soft tissue. Marcus nodded, filing away each piece of information. He was already moving. Not frantically, but with purpose. He grabbed a metal chair, testing its weight. Then he twisted it hard, breaking off one of the legs. The metal tube was about 3 feet long with a jagged end where it had broken. "What are you doing?" Tika asked, her voice high with fear. "Making a spear," Marcus said simply. He looked around the room, his eyes landing on various objects. "I need something for protection. Professor, that preserved specimen, what's the preservation fluid?" "It's a caustic compound, highly acidic to prevent decay." The professor stopped. "Marcus, you can't be thinking of fighting this thing." Marcus pulled off his academy jacket. It was made of a tough synthetic material, designed to last for years. He wrapped it around his left arm, tying it tight with strips torn from his shirt. "I'm not thinking about it, I'm doing it." "You'll die," Sylvia cried from the ceiling. Marcus looked up at her, and for the first time he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile humans had worn when they faced down mammoths with nothing but sharp sticks. "Maybe, but I'm from Earth. Do you know what we call this situation on my world?" The door shook again. More claws appeared, starting to peel the metal apart. "What?" a Proxima student asked, mesmerized by the human's calm. "Tuesday," Marcus said. He walked to the preservation containers and found the one with the most fluid. Using the broken chair leg, he smashed it open. The smell was terrible, making everyone's eyes water. Marcus grabbed an empty specimen jar and filled it with the caustic fluid. "Listen carefully," Marcus said, addressing the room. "When that thing comes through the door, it's going to go for the easiest prey first. That means whoever is moving, whoever is making noise. I need all of you to stay absolutely still and quiet." "Can you do that?" Several students nodded, too terrified to speak. "But Marcus," Professor Veltok said, "even if we stay still, it will smell us. The pheromones, it will smell me first," Marcus said. "Humans have a different scent. To that thing, I probably smell like another predator. It will focus on me as the biggest threat." "That's insane," a Proxima student whispered. Marcus shrugged. "My ancestors hunted mammoths by getting them to charge at one person while others attacked from the sides. This is the same principle, except I don't have a hunting party." He tested the weight of his makeshift spear again. "So I'll have to be enough." The door finally gave way with a shriek of tearing metal. For a moment, there was silence. Then something moved in the doorway. Something big. The Gorvak was worse in person than any preserved specimen could show. It moved with a fluid grace that should have been impossible for something so large. Its scales shifted color as it moved, going from black to purple to a dark red. Its 6 eyes moved independently, scanning the room. When it breathed, wisps of acidic vapor came from its nostrils. Every instinct in every student screamed at them to run, to hide, to do anything but stay still. But they obeyed Marcus, frozen in place by terror and desperate hope. The Gorvak's head turned slowly, taking in the room. Its eyes passed over the huddled students, paused on Professor Veltok's glittering form, and then locked onto Marcus. The human stood in the center of the room, not trying to hide, not showing fear. To the Gorvak's senses, this was wrong. Prey ran. Prey hid. Prey smelled of fear. This creature stood its ground. This creature smelled of adrenaline and determination. This creature was holding something that might be a weapon. The Gorvak made a sound, a low rumble that made everyone's bones hurt. It was trying to understand what it was seeing. In its experience, nothing challenged it. Nothing stood against it. But this small, soft creature was doing both. Marcus took a step forward. Not back, but forward, toward the monster. "That's right," he said softly, his voice steady. "Look at me. I'm the interesting one. I'm the one you want." The Gorvak's 6 eyes all focused on him now, its mouth open, showing rows of teeth that went back into its throat. The acid saliva dripped onto the floor, immediately eating holes in the metal. On Earth, Marcus continued, still in that calm voice, we have a saying. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. But you know what? Humans are really good at getting punched in the face. We've been doing it to each other for thousands of years. He took another step forward. The Gorvak shifted, its 6 legs adjusting position. It was preparing to charge. The thing about humans, Marcus said, now gripping his makeshift spear with both hands, is that we're not the strongest, or the fastest, or the toughest, but we're the most stubborn creatures in the universe. We don't know when to quit. The Gorvak charged. It moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. 1 second it was in the doorway, the next it was halfway across the room. Its claws extended, its mouth opened wide enough to swallow Marcus whole. But Marcus was already moving, not away but sideways and forward, at an angle the Gorvak did not expect. The creature's claws missed him by inches. Its mouth snapped shut on empty air, and Marcus's makeshift spear found its mark, stabbing into the joint where one of its front legs met its body. The Gorvak screamed, a sound that shattered 2 windows and made everyone's ears ring. It spun with impossible speed, its tail whipping around like a club. Marcus dropped flat, the tail passing over him so close it tore his shirt. He rolled, came, up still holding his weapon, and threw the jar of caustic fluid directly into the creature's face. The fluid splashed across 4 of its 6 eyes. The Gorvak's scream went even higher as it clawed at its face, trying to clear the burning liquid. The emergency containment alcove. Professor Veltok suddenly chimed, his mind working again. Marcus, the emergency containment alcove in the corner. It has a force field. Marcus saw it. A small reinforced area designed for chemical spills or other hazards. It was maybe 15 feet from where he stood, but the Gorvak was between him and it. I need to get it to move, Marcus called back, dodging another wild swing of claws. How? Tika squeaked. Marcus grinned, that same predator's smile. Same way humans always have, by being too annoying to ignore. He grabbed another chair and threw it at the Gorvak's head. It bounced off harmlessly but made the creature turn toward him. Marcus backed up toward the wall opposite the alcove. The Gorvak followed, its remaining eyes locked on him. Come on, Marcus muttered. That's it. Follow me. I'm the threat. I'm the one you want. The Gorvak lunged again. This time one of its claws caught Marcus's wrapped arm. The jacket absorbed most of the impact, but the force spun him around and slammed him into the wall. He felt something in his shoulder pop. Pain shot through his arm. But pain was an old friend to humans. Pain meant you were still alive. Marcus pushed off the wall and kept moving. The Gorvak was fully focused on him now, its back to the alcove. It gathered itself for another charge, all 6 legs tensing. Now! Marcus shouted, though he was not talking to anyone in the room. The Gorvak charged. Marcus waited until the last possible second, then dove to the side. The creature's momentum carried it into the wall with a crash that shook the entire level. Marcus rolled to his feet and ran, not away but straight at the monster's back. He jumped using a desk as a springboard and landed on the Gorvak's back. The creature went insane, bucking and spinning, trying to throw him off. Marcus held on with his good arm, his legs wrapped around its body. With his injured arm, screaming in pain, he drove the broken chair leg into the base of its skull, where he guessed the main nerve clusters would be. He guessed right. The Gorvak stumbled, its movements becoming erratic. It staggered backward, toward the alcove. Marcus waited until they were almost there, then let go and rolled away. The medical team worked on Marcus for 20 minutes. They reset his shoulder with a quick snap that made him grunt but not cry out. They cleaned and sealed his cuts with medical foam that would speed healing. They scanned him for internal injuries and found bruised ribs but nothing broken. The head medic, a 4-armed Altarian, kept making clicking sounds of disbelief. You should be dead, the medic said bluntly. No offense meant, but your species is soft. No natural armor, no redundant organs. How did you survive? Marcus flexed his newly repaired shoulder. Humans are tougher than we look. We heal fast, and we're good at ignoring pain when we need to. The security team had brought in a specialized containment unit for the Gorvak. It took 6 of them to transfer the creature from the alcove to the unit, even with it partially sedated. The thing had finally tired itself out fighting the force field, but its 6 eyes still tracked every movement, learning, remembering. Professor Veltok had been repaired too, the stressed cracks in his crystal body filled with a special compound. He stood near Marcus, his light pulsing with something that might have been respect. "Marcus," he said softly, "what you did was remarkable. But I must ask, how did you know what to do? Fighting such a creature, it should have been impossible." Marcus stood up, testing his balance. The medical foam was good stuff. He already felt better. On Earth, we study predators. Not just the dead ones, but the living ones. We learn their patterns, their weak points. Every predator has them. But the Gorvak is not from Earth, a Proxima student said. They had all stayed to watch, unable to leave even after the danger passed. "No," Marcus agreed, "but predators are predators. They all follow certain rules. They go for easy prey first. They respond to challenges from other predators. They can be confused if prey does something unexpected." He looked at the contained Gorvak. "This thing is used to everything running from it. When I moved toward it instead, it had to stop and think. That gave me an advantage." "An advantage?" Sylvia repeated from where she hovered near the ceiling, still not comfortable coming down. "You call almost being eaten an advantage?" Marcus actually laughed. "You should see me try to pet a cassowary. Now that's dangerous." The other students did not understand the reference, but they understood the tone. The human was making jokes about almost dying. It was insane. It was also somehow comforting. If Marcus could laugh about it, maybe it was not as bad as it seemed. The security chief was reviewing footage from the classroom's cameras. His team had gathered around him, all watching in silence. Finally, he looked up. "We need to review all of our protocols," he said. "If one human with improvised weapons can contain a Gorvak, we've been approaching security wrong. Humans have been dealing with predators for a long time," Marcus said. "We might be able to help with that." The chief nodded slowly. "I'll be recommending that to the Academy Board. We've become too dependent on technology. Sometimes, as you showed, simple solutions work better." As the security team prepared to leave with the contained Gorvak, one of them approached Marcus. It was a young officer, probably fresh from training. She was from a species Marcus did not recognize, with scaled skin and large eyes. "Sir," she said nervously, "I've been studying Earth military history as part of my training. Is it true your species once hunted your planet's apex predators with just sharpened sticks?" "Spears, but yes," Marcus said. "Also rocks, fire, and really good teamwork. And now you have nuclear weapons and space travel, but you still learn the old ways?" Marcus nodded. "We call it just in case. You never know when technology might fail." The officer's scales shifted to a brighter color, which Marcus guessed meant excitement. Would you be willing to teach some of those techniques to the security team?" The security chief heard this and came over. "That's actually not a bad idea. Mr. Chen, would you consider giving some lectures on, what would you call it, primitive survival techniques?" "I'd be happy to," Marcus said, "though we just call them survival techniques. Nothing primitive about staying alive." After the security team left, the classroom fell into a strange quiet. The other students were all looking at Marcus, but not with fear anymore. It was something different. Respect, maybe. Or Wonder Tika was the first to approach him. She moved carefully, her prey instinct still firing, but she came within arm's reach. That was closer than any herbivore student had ever gotten to him voluntarily. "Thank you," she said simply. "You saved all of us." "You would have done the same for me," Marcus said. Tika's ears twitched. "No, I would not have. I could not have. When that thing came through the door, I froze. We all did. We've been taught our whole lives that violence is wrong, that fighting is primitive. But you—" She paused, searching for words. "You knew exactly what to do." Other students were gathering closer now, drawn by curiosity overcoming fear. "How do you live like that?" A Proxima student asked. "Always ready to fight? Always prepared for danger?" Marcus thought about it. "It's not that we're always ready to fight. It's that we accept that sometimes fighting is necessary. On Earth we have a saying, 'It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.'" "What does that mean?" Sylvia asked, finally floating down from the ceiling. "It means it's better to have skills you don't need than to need skills you don't have," Marcus explained. Every human learns some basic survival skills. How to make fire, find water, build shelter, defend ourselves. We hope we never need them, but we learn them anyway. Professor Veltok chimed thoughtfully. Your entire species maintains these skills, even though you have technology. Especially because we have technology, Marcus said. Technology fails. Power goes out. Ships crash. Equipment breaks. When that happens, you need to know how to survive without it. But the stress, a Dweller student said, emerging from where it had been hiding. How do you deal with the constant stress of living on such a dangerous world? Marcus smiled. A real smile this time, not the predator's grin. It's not constant stress. It's actually beautiful on Earth. We have mountains that touch the clouds, oceans that stretch to the horizon, forests full of life. Yes, some of that life can kill you, but most of it won't if you're careful and respectful. Respectful to predators? Tika's nose twitched in confusion, especially to predators. They're not evil. They're just trying to survive, same as everything else. Humans learn to respect them, understand them, and yes, fight them when necessary, but we also learn to live alongside them. The classroom door, or what was left of it, suddenly filled with more students. Word had spread through the academy about what had happened. Dozens of students from other classes were peering in, trying to see the human who had fought a Gorvak. Among them was another human, a girl named Sarah from Earth's European Federation. She pushed through the crowd and ran to Marcus. Are you insane? She demanded, checking his injuries. You fought a Gorvak with a chair? Chair leg, Marcus corrected. The whole chair would have been too heavy to swing properly. Sarah stared at him, then laughed. Only an Australian would critique his own weapon choice after fighting an alien monster. The crowd of students grew larger. Some professors arrived too, including the head of the academy's board. They all wanted to see the classroom, to understand what had happened. The head of the board, an ancient being from the galaxy's oldest spacefaring civilization, approached Marcus. Its form was hard to describe, shifting between states of matter, but its voice was clear. Mr. Chen, it said formally, the Academy owes you a debt. You saved 23 lives today. I just did what needed doing, Marcus said, uncomfortable with the attention. Perhaps. But what needed doing was something none of us could have done. We have recordings of the entire event. With your permission, we would like to use them for training purposes. Marcus shrugged. Sure, if it helps. It will do more than help, the board head said. It will change how we think about security, about danger, and about humans. As the crowd grew and questions flew, Marcus noticed something important. The invisible barriers in the classroom were gone. Lepori students stood next to Proxima students who stood next to the Dweller. Sylvia had landed on a desk near a group of mixed species. They were all mingling, all talking, all united by what they had witnessed, and none of them were avoiding Marcus anymore. Later, as the maintenance crews worked to repair the classroom, Marcus found himself surrounded by students asking questions. They wanted to know about Earth, about humans, about how to defend themselves. Could you teach us? Tika asked. Some of these survival skills? Marcus looked around at the eager faces. Herbivores and carnivores, flyers and swimmers all looking at him with hope. I'm not a teacher, he said. You taught us today. Professor Veltok said. You taught us that civilization does not mean forgetting how to survive. That evolution does not mean becoming helpless. Marcus thought about it. He thought about the fear in their eyes when the Gorvak had appeared. He thought about how helpless they had been, and he thought about how that never had to happen again. All right, he said, I'll teach you. But I warn you, human survival training is tough. We believe in learning by doing. After today, a Proxima student said, I think we're ready for tough. There was agreement from all around. 3 weeks had passed since the Gorvak incident. The Galactic Unity Academy was a different place now. The changes were everywhere, from the new reinforced doors made of military-grade steel to the emergency response drills that happened twice a week. But the biggest change was in the students themselves. Marcus walked through the main corridor toward the new training facility. Students who once pressed themselves against walls when he passed now waved and called out greetings. A group of Lepori students actually approached him, their ears forward in friendly greeting. Good morning, Marcus, Tika said brightly. She was wearing the new training uniform, a tough fabric designed to withstand the physical demands of what they were calling practical survival studies. Morning, Tika. Ready for today's class? Her ears twitched nervously. I think so. Today is the obstacle course, right? Marcus nodded. Don't worry. We'll start with the easy version. Your idea of easy and ours are very different, one of the other Lepori said. But she was smiling, showing that she was joking. The training facility had been built in record time. The Academy Board had approved it immediately after the incident, pouring resources into creating a space where students could learn physical skills. It had padded areas for combat training, obstacle courses designed for different species, and even a section that could simulate various dangerous environments. When Marcus entered, he found it already full of students, not just the ones who had been in Classroom 7 that day, but dozens of others. Word had spread throughout the academy and beyond. The human who had fought the Gorvak was teaching survival skills, and everyone wanted to learn. Sarah was already there, helping to set up equipment. 3 other human students had also volunteered to help teach. Together, they were introducing the galaxy to humanity's long relationship with danger. Professor Veltok was there too, his crystal form glowing with enthusiasm. He had become one of the strongest supporters of the new program, arguing that academic knowledge and practical skills should go hand in hand. Attention, everyone, Marcus called out. The room fell silent immediately. It was strange how much respect near-death experiences could earn you. Today we're working on environmental navigation. The obstacle course has been designed to accommodate different species, so don't worry if you can't do everything. The point is to challenge yourselves. A Zephyrian raised one of her delicate arms. What if we get hurt? The course is padded and there are medical teams on standby, Marcus assured her. But getting a few bruises is part of learning. On Earth we say, no pain, no gain. Humans have too many sayings about pain, a Proxima student muttered, but he was already stretching, preparing for the course. The training began with warm-ups. It had taken some work to figure out exercises that worked for such varied body types, but they had managed. Lepori did jumping exercises that played to their powerful legs. Zephyrians practiced quick aerial maneuvers. The Proxima students worked on flexibility, their bodies able to bend in ways that made Marcus wince. Then came the obstacle course. It was not too difficult by Earth standards, just a series of walls to climb, gaps to jump, narrow beams to balance on, and ropes to swing across. For humans, it would be a basic fitness test. For species that had not faced physical challenges in centuries, it was like asking them to climb a mountain. Tika went first, volunteering despite her obvious nervousness. She approached the first obstacle, a wall about 6 feet high with handholds. You can do this, Marcus encouraged. Your species has strong legs. Use them to push up, not just your arms. Tika backed up, took a running leap and managed to grab the top of the wall. Her legs scrabbled for purchase, found it, and she pulled herself over. When she dropped down on the other side, every student cheered. I did it, she squeaked in amazement. I actually did it. One by one, other students tried the course. Many failed at first, but they kept trying. The Dweller, who everyone thought would have the hardest time, surprised them all by rolling through the course faster than anyone, using momentum and its spherical shape to its advantage. Sylvia struggled with the ground-based obstacles but excelled whenever the course went vertical. She could fly straight up walls that others had to climb. The Proxima students used their flexibility and color-changing ability in creative ways, sometimes camouflaging themselves as if the course was hunting them. But the real surprise came when a new student entered the facility. It was a Gorvak. Everyone froze. Several students made sounds of fear. Marcus's hand went automatically to his hip, where a weapon would be if he was armed. The Gorvak was smaller than the one that had escaped, probably a juvenile. It was also wearing an academy uniform, specially modified for its 6 legs. Around its neck was a translation device. Please, the device translated its clicking sounds. I mean no harm. I am Sixclaw. I have come to learn. The room was dead silent. Marcus stepped forward, putting himself between the Gorvak and the other students. Learn what? He asked carefully. Control, Sixclaw said through the translator. My species is violent by nature. We have no civilization because we cannot stop hunting, stop fighting. But we watched the video of you. You are also a predator, but you control it. You choose when to fight. We want to learn this. Marcus stared at the young Gorvak. Your people sent you here? After what happened? Not sent. I came alone, left my world in secret. If you can teach prey species to be stronger, perhaps you can teach predator species to be controlled. It was a moment that could have gone very wrong. The other students were terrified. Even Sarah and the other humans were tense. But Marcus made a decision that would be remembered in galactic history. "All right," he said. "You can join the class. But you follow every rule, understand? Any aggressive behavior and you're out." Six Claw's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, which the translator interpreted as agreement. "I understand. I will learn." What followed was probably the strangest training session in the galaxy's history. A Gorvac learning alongside species it would normally hunt. At first, everyone stayed far away from Six Claw. But as the session continued and the young Gorvac showed nothing but eagerness to learn, the fear began to fade. When Six Claw struggled with an obstacle designed for two-legged species, Tika surprised everyone by offering advice. "Try using your middle legs as a pivot," she suggested nervously. It worked. Six Claw made it over the obstacle and turned to Tika. "Thank you, Prey Friend." "Just friend," Tika corrected. "We're all students here." By the end of the session, something remarkable had happened. The predator and prey species were working together, helping each other through the course. When a Proxima student fell, Six Claw was the first to help him up, careful with his claws. When Six Claw got stuck in a narrow section, designed for smaller species, the Dweller rolled over to guide him through. After training, everyone gathered in the facility's common area. It had become a tradition to share stories after each session, usually with Marcus or another human talking about Earth. Today, Marcus decided to tell them about dogs. Dogs were once wolves, he explained. Dangerous predators that hunted in packs. But thousands of years ago, humans and wolves began working together. Over time, wolves became dogs. Now they're our companions, our friends, our family. "You took predators and made them family?" Sylvia asked in wonder. "We did more than that," Sarah added. "We became partners. Dogs and humans are so close now that dogs can read human emotions better than some humans can." Six Claw's translator clicked. "This is what we want. Not to be pets, but to be partners. To be more than our nature," Professor Veltok chimed thoughtfully. "This could change everything. If predator and prey species can learn to work together, truly work together, the galaxy would be very different, eh?" "It's already changing," Marcus said. He gestured around the room where a Gorvac sat peacefully among herbivores. 3 weeks ago, this would have been impossible. The conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the Academy's communication system. "Marcus Chen, please report to the board chamber immediately." Marcus sighed. He had been called to meet with the board several times since the incident, usually to discuss expanding the survival program. When he arrived at the board chamber, he found it full. Not just the Academy board, but representatives from dozens of worlds. They were all watching something on the main screen. It was the video of his fight with the Gorvac. "Mr. Chen," the board head said, "we've been discussing your actions and their implications." Marcus tensed. Was he in trouble? Had letting Six Claw join the class been too much? "We've received thousands of requests," the board head continued. "From worlds across the galaxy. They want humans to come teach them. They want to learn what you call survival skills." Marcus blinked in surprise. "Thousands?" "The video of your fight has spread everywhere. But more than that, word has spread of what you're doing here, teaching cooperation between species that have been separate for millennia. The Gorvac youth training alongside prey species. It's unprecedented." A representative from the Lepori homeworld stood up. "My people have been afraid for so long. Afraid of predators, afraid of danger, afraid of our own shadows. But seeing our youth learn to be strong, to be capable, it gives us hope." Another representative, this one from a carnivore species, also spoke.